be on.
Hey, so welcome everyone. Good evening if you're in Europe with us. If you're somewhere else, good day or whatever it is there right now. You are joining another Product People meetup. I'm Victoria of Product People, and we have our regular meetings every Tuesday to talk about product management and all related to this, many different topics that are related to this. If you like what we do, please support us on Patreon. Big thanks to all our Patreon supporters because you help us pay for important tools that we need, like Zoom and streaming platform that allows us to stream this to several places where it's easier to watch. If you are inspired after this meeting to join and talk more about product management, please go and join our chat on Telegram. It's Get Product People. And we are happy to talk more and answer more questions and ask questions to each other as well. Product People is a community builder on one hand. On the other hand, we are a consulting company. We have a specialty in product management, and we started in Berlin in 2018, but currently we are remote in different places in Europe. Our main clients are in Germany and Switzerland, and we work with a variety of different tasks, from interim management for several months to turnaround and growth, shorter stays, or doing also product management trainings. So if you know of a company that's looking for interim product manager and you like what we do, please recommend us. We are open right now to new projects and projects starting next year, especially. With this, I am going to give the stage over to our guest of today, Jonathan. Jonathan has very interesting experience, and it's really cool to have him here today. I'm sure there's a lot of things we will learn from him. And I'm looking forward to the talk and to Q&A session afterwards.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
So there we go. So first of all, thank you for inviting me today. So my name is Jonathan Gall. I've been head of platform for Yoonema for the last 2 years. And what does it mean, head of platform? I was managing the product, both in terms of design, development, and shipping. So I'm going to quickly talk about Yoonema and why this presentation is relevant to you, even though you might not have a business in Africa. So Yoonema is an African company that is selling goods. So think Amazon, right? Now there are a few challenges with selling in Africa because of issues with access to computers, access to internet. And however, the African continent, and especially the country we are working on, Senegal, being growing constantly. One of the KPI that you need to get in mind is that today the African continent is 14% of the planet. In 2050, it's 26% of the planet in terms of numbers. So for that reason, you have all the Chinese corporations, American corporations, European corporations. So from Jack Ma to Jeff Bezos investing right now in Africa. So now that I introduced Yoonema and what we do and the e-commerce, our function, which is e-commerce, I'm going to tell you a short story about how not to create a product culture. So some of you might know Jumia. Jumia is one of the is the biggest African company in terms of e-commerce. It's the only company that is on the NASDAQ. And when Jumia did their IPO, the CEO of Jumia did that interview. And I'm going to play it. You have subtitles, so I'm going to play it.
Prices on Jumia. Jumia operates in Africa, but your headquarters are in Germany and Dubai. Top executives are French. Your engineering talent's in Portugal. Is it important to get technical talent in Africa to be more of a really African company as opposed to a European company?
We are a completely African company. We operate exclusively in Africa. We have more than 5,000 employees in Africa. And as you point out,
But those are the warehouses, not
the reality is in Africa, there's not enough development and developers, for example. And we
Okay, so I'm going to cut there. You can imagine what happened on the continent when basically your shining star goes on TV in the States and like, you know, lights on and telling, oh, you guys don't know development, right? Um, and why does it matter? At the end of the day, it's a globalized world. You know, you're all working for companies shipping in other countries. Now there is the reality of Africa when it comes to the user. One of the key factors of our field, which is product management, is to understand our product and understand our market. To do that, it's better to have people that are on the floor, that really are next to users. And to do that, you need to recruit people. When you go on TV and you communicate like that, what happens is that it puts barrier for you to recruit more folks. And to this day, this extract is going on social networks in Africa, and this is a real barrier for them to recruit talents. So I wanted to use that as an introduction because Jumia has been the typical, startup so far, trying to focus on growth and not really sustainable growth. So that's why my talk is about bootstrapping a healthy product culture. And I do believe that even though all those steps are exaggerated because of the market I'm working in, this is going to be relevant for all of you listening to that talk because values around vision and communication works for everybody. So we're going to talk about the four main steps to bootstrap a healthy product culture. So clarify the vision, recruit the right cast, do teach, supervise, and trust, and embrace the continuous learning experience. I need to tell now, I need to another kind of storytelling because I'm going to talk about our experience and how we launched Yoonema. When we launched Yoonema, so 2 years, the idea started 2.5 years ago, something like that. When we launched Yoonema, we were all trying to figure out how do we create a startup on the African continent. Why we are interested in that topic. The two founders of Yoonema are both Senegalese, Senegalese immigrants. They both succeeded in the US. One of them was a senior executive for Apple and then a senior executive for Amazon. The other is a senior executive for Amazon. So they've been working in e-commerce since decades. And they realized that where they were going back in vacations, what they had access to in Seattle or in North Carolina, they didn't have access to that in Senegal, and they didn't have access to that in Ghana, and so and so. So how to create that experience? So the first step we did was to work on clarifying the vision. Now we all know the North Star. We're all product managers, right? Chapter 1, work on your vision. So why I'm telling you, why do we want to emphasize the vision in that case, particularly? The reason is simple. When you go in a place where people don't have the ecosystem around product, because there are not many startups, almost none, product managers or product people are just not known. People are not used to that. You need to make sure that everybody that is going to engage with those people are perfectly aligned. You can't you can go in and go fast and break things. That's not going to happen. What you're going to do is that you're going to break people. That's why your first goal is to sit down, really decide what are the values, what it is we are going to achieve, what is the idea behind our startup, make sure that we are completely engaged, and completely conscious of our goals, and then communicate around that. I was employee 1 at Yoonema. So we did, in order to do that, we went through the standard process. We did design sprint, empathy mapping, the whole thing. I'm not going to go in the theory of product management with you. And one of our main goals was not only to understand ourselves how to do it, but how can we explain that in simple terms, in clear terms, to whoever we want to get on board. And that's obviously, for that, you want to have a management team that is actively engaged. One of the particularities that exist in African communities is that word of mouth is very important, and having engaged people in your management people are going to appreciate it and talk about your company in a positive way. Basically, do the anti-Jumia. That was one of our goals. And then before getting there, and this is still before recruiting anybody in Senegal, we want to carefully plan what we are going to do, what steps we are going to follow. The reason why we really want to have this setup is the same reason why we have to emphasize on the North Star. We need to be aligned. We need to make sure that everybody knows what are going to be their objective, what do they need to communicate to others. So everything is clear when we get in and we all speak the same language, we all talk with the same voice. And compared to creating a startup in Europe, for example, you don't have to go through all of those steps, because you will, of course, you will have your North Star, but you're going to find people that were used to evolve in an ecosystem of startups. So they know the vocabulary, they know the way it works, they adapt much more quickly. When you go in a place where product management is like, what exactly is your job? You need to really explain what you're going to do and achieve. So once you set this up, so you met your management, right? You had your design sprint, you created all your documentation, you're ready to go, right? Now you open your office, you're in Senegal. What do you do next? Hey, we're going to recruit, right? And now it's going to be really fun. Today, so you're in Berlin, right? Or you're in Paris, or you're in Barcelona. If you want to recruit a product manager or any product specialist, product designer, you're going to do the usual thing. If you recruit a designer, you're going to put something on Dribbble or on Behance. You're recruiting a product manager, you're going to put an offer on LinkedIn, and you will have a lot of CVs. You're going to triage in those CVs and select the right folks. Yeah, that's not going to happen. That's definitely not going to happen, because one, the role you're asking for sometimes don't exist. And this is where the CEO of Jumia was right. What he wanted, I don't think he wanted to be, he obviously didn't want to be aggressive or anything. What he meant was that I didn't find people they want to do what I wanted to do. In his case, I do believe he didn't research enough, but in our case, we are creating that company in Senegal. We need to make sure that we get people to do the work, and we don't have access to those LinkedIn reviews, and we don't have access to HR company. So what do you do? How do you select? So that's based on our experience, our 2 years. There was a lot of hit and miss. We hired people, we fired people. But what we figured out at the end was the most successful profiles were the curious, basically the open-minded folks, and experience being a bonus. We had people who had amazing CVs, relative to what we wanted, but it didn't work out at all. On the other side, and that's a personal takeaway, I do believe that curious people make amazing product managers, because they are going to get in any field, they are going to get interested, they are going to ask the right question, and they are going to get better. The second point is to make sure that you're going to keep them long term. When you recruit on the African continent in general, in Senegal in particular, your competition is not only the company next door, right? It's immigration to Europe and immigration to the US. I mean, our founders, this is what they did, right? They graduated, they moved in the US, they had their MBA, they succeeded, they spent 20 years, and now they are going back. And we had a case like that. We had one guy in our team that left, software engineer, because he had a visa proposal to move in France. So this is something that happens in every country, right? But in Africa, it's really much more difficult to manage that kind of competition. So how do you do that? You try to keep them long term. You engage them so that, okay, we are going to do something. We are going to build a project for you. We are going to build you so that for 2-3 years, after that, you do what you have to do. But we are going to work together to produce amazing content, and you will figure out how life is going. So it's really a two-way relationship, much more than you will have in Europe or in the US. And then you need, and as a consequence, you need to align their development to their needs, but also your own needs, which means that it's easy to get in the syndrome of being, I'm going to train them all the time, or the opposite. So you need to find a balance between both. That was new for me. I used to work, before working for Yoonema, I worked a decade and a half in banking corporations, in hedge funds, to be specific, where the recruiting process is extremely strict. For anybody who's working in finance, you know what I'm talking about. So getting in that flux where you don't have, you need to improvise was a learning experience for me. And how do I keep people also was something new. Continuing on this topic, now you recruited your cast. You have those amazing, really open-minded folks, super curious. They want to go, right? They want to do things with you, and you engage them long-term. What do you do next? Then you need to do the work, right? You need to execute. So how do you execute when you're a product manager in Senegal? You need to do the job, like for real. If you're a senior product manager and you expect that you're going to have somebody else do the work for you, as you will do in Europe, or writing the BRD or things like that you thought that, oh, it's not my work anymore. Yeah, you will need to do it, because you need to teach and show them, talk the talk, hold the walk. You need to not only explain them what to do, but you need to work with them and do the work so they have a model. Because this is what they need. Whenever you go into in a context where you don't have the ecosystem that train people for you, then you need to be conscious that if you get into that ecosystem, you will need to train those people. If you go with the expectation that they are going to learn things on Coursera and Udacity, good luck for you. And we tried. So that's a very, very important point. You need to teach, and you need to be also mindful of their progress while doing it. Same thing, because you're in a context where people don't have access or don't really know about product management meetup and don't know about the job. If I work with somebody in Berlin, I will have a very different approach than somebody in Senegal, because I need to be mindful of where he is right now, have a holistic view on their own challenges and their own background, and adapt my rhythm to their rhythm. Otherwise, what's going to happen, and this is also an experience we had, we overwhelmed folks and they resigned. And second chapter, so I explain you how difficult it was to recruit people. You don't want that to happen. So I like the concept of empowerment above supervision, right? Especially, and I think this applies even more today because we are living in a remote world, which means that if you're a mid-level manager that likes to, you know, what is on your screen, you're going to have a bad time. And especially in Africa and South America, because it's not culturally acceptable. So you want to make sure that you're basically not only the boss, but also the sidekick of those folks. They can trust you, and you need to give them challenges, and you know they are going to fail those. And this is something our CEO, who is a product of Amazon, emphasize a lot on. Let people do things, and it's okay if they fail. I'm happy they fail, because this is how they are going to go with us. And that's also, it's not something that is really acceptable in at least the corporations I worked with in the past, right? In banking, you don't do that. You don't move, you don't do that. As simple as that. You don't take any risks. And which is linked to trust. You know, you need to trust those folks. You need to be like, okay, they are going to do the work, they are going to succeed. Let's do that. Let's have that leap of faith, and let's help them. Let's make them do things, try things, and get that feedback and improve upon it. So that's how you execute, pretty much. And what I'm saying is true at the product management level when we train product managers and or product designers, but it's true at whole role, right? Communication is, whatever company you are in, being sure that there are a lot of transparency and communication is going to be important. It doesn't need to be, it's just more in a more relevant, I will say, in Senegal and Africa because of the context, because we don't have a context, but yeah, wherever you are, that's going to be important. Just force us to do more. And finally, what I call the continuous learning experience is that even though your process is started, you created that first iteration, right? But we all know what comes after an iteration. We have a retrospective, we have to check. So you need to create those checkpoints. You need to set up clear KPIs. And you need to make sure that your KPIs are relevant to the country and to the cultural acceptance. Senegal, simple thing, Senegal is a country, it's where people speak French. That's the second language, actually, after Wolof. But professionally, people will speak French. And our company is American, right? One of our founders was moved in the US very young, so they barely speak French. So we operate in English. So we have KPIs for some of the folks, which are, we need you to improve your English. And I know this exists in some companies in Europe. I know we had some of those in some of the companies I work with in the past. However, for us, we really try to figure out profile by profile what KPI are going to make sense for them individually, instead of just, what is your cycle time? We are trying to really figure out what's going to make them go. And so they can catch up with the expectation we will have in the Western world, right? And that means that I like this concept of being the architect of things. We all know process, we all know Kaizen, Daiming, and all of that. We all know the value of creating a right process, a self-sustaining process, right? When every iteration, you're willing to make sure that it's very easy to get lost in So it's very easy to get lost in execution, especially when you're working on a startup. So you need to make a particular effort to make sure that the process that you're creating, so the whole cycle with KPI, is sustainable. It's going to be something that works itself without you pushing all the time. And what does it mean is that in the choice of your KPI, in the task you're going to give, you need to make sure that if you exit for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, those folks can, continue. And lastly, and that's a personal point, going with the team. What do I mean with going with the team? I'm going to talk more about my personal experience, right? I am a product of big corporations. I started to work in France for Areva, which is the nuclear company in IT department. Then I moved in Luxembourg, where I worked for banks, and I moved in Poland, where I work for banks. So I'm not really a startup guy initially, right? So there was, I learned when I decided to, to join this adventure, it was also a process for me to go personally in my interactions with folks. Working at that level with another culture, another continent, was really made me, I believe, I hope, to be honest, a better product manager, a better product designer, and a better person overall, a much more patient person, and somebody that believes in not only, changing the world, because we are all in startups for that, that's our goal, but also make people grow and make people, create amazing things. And as I told to my folks, what I hope is that one day they will leave Yoonema and they will create their own startup, and they will have all the tools to create a fantastic ecosystem in Senegal and in Mali and in Ghana and all those countries, because we started that process instead of just outsourcing to other countries. And thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Jonathan. That was really interesting. And I see Khalid is very excited. He clapped and wrote also some comments. Khalid, do you have also some questions maybe already?
Yeah, a bit under pressure. Not really at the moment. Just so where's your company based again?
So the company is based in Dakar, which is the capital of Senegal.
And you are where right now?
Me, I'm living in Poland right now.
Cool.
Yeah, life is an interesting thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably, I really liked how you come from a very genuine place, I think, and not a lot of people come with that honesty with what they do, and I for sure appreciate that.
Thank you.
Don't be surprised when I send you a LinkedIn request at some point.
Yeah, please do.
Thank you, Khalid. There is already a question on YouTube. Andre asks, how is it to work in Poland as a French-speaking Senegalese PM? Please tell us a little bit about the cultural adaptation.
Okay, so that's going to be fun because I'm not Senegalese. I'm Caribbean.
Okay, now it gets more and more interesting.
Yeah, I'm from a little island called Guadeloupe. And I moved in Europe when I was 20 years old to go to business school. So I will say that my personal experience living between continents myself gave me, I believe, the tools to just be like, okay, people are different, or people are the same, but everybody is the same, everybody is different. We all know the song, right? So everybody is the same because we have the same foundation. However, because of cultural changes, you need to have open mind. I know that my life in the Caribbean was extremely different than my life in Europe. And my life in France was different than my life in Luxembourg, which was different from my life in Poland, right? So when I was onboarded into that project, I did the same. I was just like, I'm going to discover another culture. I'm going to listen to people. And one point about me is that I started this project as a product designer. They onboarded me initially as a product designer because that's my main craft. So I spent the first few months basically doing usability test and user research, which is by definition listening to people. And that helped me a lot in the transition to product management because I knew intimately about the challenges that people had. I did countless of interviews internally and externally. And I do believe that we all know, I mean, that's a typical thing. We all know that user research is important, interviewing people is important. However, in that specific case, when you're going to onboard another culture, it's going to be almost impossible for you to create empathy because you didn't go there, right? But you will be able, with a lot of work, to create sympathy. You're going to understand their challenges and you're going to create parallels with your own experience. And there are a lot of common points between the Caribbean and Senegal. There are a lot of common points between France and Senegal. There are a lot of common. So you find those, you find those links. And then your main goal is that people continue to talk to you. And for people to continue to talk to you, you need to really to be that person they know, they are going to listen to me and they are going to take into account what I know. I would say I have a book to advise for some of you who are interested in this process of listening to people. It's called The Mom Test. It's a standard usability UX research book. And if you have challenges in that, trying to make people really talk to you, that's an excellent book to read.
I second that. I think it's a brilliant book. I also like that it's actually short. Unlike many similar books, it gives a lot of content in a very precise manner, and I think it's really good. Cool. Thanks a lot. Connected to this, I was wondering if you have some good learnings to share on the remote work. And I guess you have in Yoonema some kind of hybrid, right? There are some people who are in Senegal in the same office, and you are like quite also with the time difference. How do you manage this? What are special things or tools you use?
So when we started Yoonema, we really wanted to be a local company, right? We have offices there. However, we were conscious that we couldn't start this way. So we worked in Poland with colleagues of mine, partners I worked with in the past, to a company called Upside, and we worked on building the system initially. It was already remote. So we had a standard stack, Clubhouse, Slack, lots of calls. One particularity of our team is that we don't do almost video calls for two reasons. First of all, it's not, data is expensive in Africa. That's something that people really don't think about, but video calls can be extremely slow, expensive. So that was the first reason. And second reason, there is a concept of, people don't like to show themselves, right? So we are okay with that, which helped us because we didn't experience the Zoom fatigue. We are more like, we created the Clubhouse chat application before it was launched. And it worked really extremely well for us. So we built the office between the US, Senegal, and Poland. We had between 2 and 3 developers at the beginning. So in Poland, we have now 2 developers in Senegal. One, but 2 roles in Senegal. They're working together directly. So there is a lot of, flux of information, training that is being done because this was one of our goals. And whenever we need some heavy lifting, we contact our partners and they help us. Our goal is really to grow skills in Senegal. Right now, we have 1 office and 1 shop in Senegal. I mean, we are e-commerce, but we also have a physical shop because same thing, you adapt to what people want in the country. right? And we identified, that wasn't the plan initially, but we identified that having a physical shop will be important. And this is where you really want to have those cycles of questioning, and whatever you had in mind at the beginning, wanted to be pure player e-commerce. Yeah, that's not going to happen. So you need to create trust. And fun thing, we created that shop not really because we make sales out of it, because we created that shop because we wanted people to see and touch us, almost, to feel that, okay, we exist, because it's a context where there is a lot of scam, where there are a lot of products of very bad quality being sold as authentic, so you want to create that trust, so you do everything you can. So to summarize, I will say that working remotely was easy in a way, because we had very senior managers in the US that were used to having remote teams since decades. So for them, it was no big deal. Because we had excellent support, we recruited excellent people in Senegal that were able to communicate on all channels. And in Poland, we had a support team that worked extremely well too.
Oh, very interesting. Thanks for sharing.
My pleasure.
There are no questions typed in the chat, but anyone is welcome. Yeah, Khalid, please.
Khalid, if you weren't using video call, you were mainly using chat, or what other channels were you?
Audio. Pure. We did a lot of. Basically, we were launching GoToMeeting because that's the tool we are using. Except that we never opened the video channel. Oh, one anecdote, and those are battlefield experiences. Why do we use GoToMeeting? You're like in a world of Zoom and all of that. We discovered that Zoom had very low coverage in Senegal, which is, and not only Zoom, a lot of applications, they just don't have DNS there because for them it's second guess. And GoToMeeting, because it's a huge company and that Oracle behind it, worked pretty well. So we kind of, even though we wanted to use something else, we are like, oh, GoToMeeting, this is very banks, right? Yeah, it worked well for us. So, and those are experiences that you don't expect. Another fun fact is that when we launched, we had that. So our two founders are Senegalese, but they moved 20 years ago, right? 25 years ago. And they had this assumption that people will use desktop when we build the website. And what we realized is that Senegal made the jump exactly like China in the 2000s, from nothing to mobile phones. So if you go in Dakar or in Accra today, everybody has a mobile phone and they do everything on their mobile phone. And basically in terms of visits, I don't think this is a secret, but 70 to 80% of our traffic is mobile. And those are things that you learn when you do it, and you need to adapt and change your plans.
Sorry, John, if I may ask a question. John, thank you for the presentation. Just as an interesting note, is this the smartphones, is it smartphones, Android, or is it dumb phones? What kind of handsets are these guys using?
Yeah, so it's an Android world, pretty much. iPhones comes with a huge premium. So one thing that a lot of folks don't also know about Africa in general is that import fees are astronomical in most of African countries. So every item that you find in Europe, you need to add shipping fees, and then you need to add between 20 to 30% import fees. And with salaries that are 10% or 5% of what you have in Europe, you can imagine that when somebody has an iPhone, it's like the upper class. So when we designed, that was also a design decision we did. We didn't go with whatever is the latest smartphone viewport, right? We designed with what are people actually using. And this is where it's really important to have people on the field, because they were able to tell us, to basically go in the streets, ask people, do testing, ask questions, and tell us. Obviously, we had data, right? But we also did qualitative interviews to figure out what we should design for what format. So that's an excellent question. Yeah.
Thanks, Werner, for asking. Who else has a question?
Yeah, I have a question for you, John. So I mean, this is a surprise for me that you're using audio and not a video. You know, it's like it's getting here. It's pretty common now, especially now. And but personally, I hate audio lines, and I just wanted to like ask you, how do you keep track of stuff like people that they might talk a lot, but it's audio, you have no trace of that. Like, how do you keep track of what has been said and stuff like this?
We are yeah, I should have mentioned that I'm a documentation freak, to say the least. And so every retrospective, every meeting, every process, we have a secretary. I could go back 1.5 years ago and tell you what we talked about that day, what decision we made, and the follow-up. And we had no choice anyway. We really wanted to create a system of accountability for everybody in the team to know how they can succeed, right? That success at Yoonema is not something random. We have really strict KPI, individual KPIs for members, and we try to be as close as possible to each of them to try to figure out, because that's our goal. You know, there is the business aspect of Yoonema, right? Everybody wants to make money. But for those two folks, Umar and Haji, the two founders, those are folks that were born in Senegal, that moved in the US, that succeeded, and they want to see their players succeed too. They want to, and that's one of the reasons they hire me. They wanted to train people, to move people up, to uplift basically a community. Now Umar is talking about creating an academy in Senegal, basically. To teach people design and design, particularly development. It's fine. It's more design. Yeah. So I will say that documentation is going to be key. Otherwise, it's very easy to lose track of discussions. And when it comes to meetings, we have very strict agendas, and we try to take care of time.
Okay, yeah, it's interesting. Maybe I think one of the drawbacks of this video thing is that it gets a little bit less. I mean, it's like casual, and then you say, yeah, okay, let's talk, and yeah, I remember that. And maybe when you're on a phone, like you tend to write things more. I don't know. Maybe it's like one good point of it.
I do believe so.
Can I add something?
Thanks.
Yes.
So I got fired from my job today. Actually.
Oh.
Like this morning. It's not a bad thing, because I really felt like they were not good at communicating things right, and I wasn't quiet about that, you know, and they just wanted things to go really normally. It was in German too, and one big issue I felt was, like, in any meeting, so much info is thrown out and just opinions of people on next steps or whatever, and you know, I'm still like, German is a third language, and I have to like know, like, you said something and then you started discussing something else and then you changed your mind and then you went back to this other thing, and I'm supposed to somehow still come out of a 1.5-hour meeting that should have gone for 1 hour and know exactly what the next steps are on the agenda. So I didn't feel bad about being let go, because it made sense.
Yeah.
But I really like the idea of having like an assistant sitting there, and their job is literally just to document this thing. It's so valuable. Yeah,
definitely. It's something pretty standard when you work in finance, right? Because of legal reason, they can't, they have no choice. However, when I left the industry, I realized how valuable it was. And when I say secretary, very often it was me, the secretary, taking notes. Or we will try to, everybody will do. I did it mainly first, but then it was everybody at their turn. And now it's running itself, and people created that process where they document everything. So somebody could get out for 3 weeks or a month or 2 months and get back and just read back. Recently, we onboarded a UX designer, and the onboarding was really easy because I was like, hey, those are all the retrospective for the last 2 months. This is all we did. This is the design system. All the elements are there. So, any question you have, everything is set. And when I remember my own onboarding back in the time, yeah, you basically had to take somebody by the end. Oh, look at this. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at this. That's the power of documentation. I like to document a lot. I like UX documentation.
Is there a technique to how you document? I'd love to learn how to.
So
maybe I add also here, read a question from the chat that Diana asks. May you give some advice on how to document effectively and fast after conversations and not get lost in too many details? So have some tips.
So first step, you need to have an agenda. If you think that you're going to get in a call and document on the fly, that's not going to work out. So you need to have an agenda. You need to have somebody leading that discussion. And we had senior managers, but we were all, the 3 of us were senior already. So we're able to do that and make sure that notes are taken properly. So if we have to pause, we pause. That's it. Priority is making sure that every idea is captured. So we created an idea board. For example, you were talking just a minute ago about ideas going left and right. So we have this page on Notion, that's our idea board. And every time somebody comes with an idea, we put it there, we classify it, we put the date when it was added, and we have the follow-ups when we should follow up on that idea. So no idea goes away, because what I've been experiencing, and I'm sure you experience the same, people having an idea, nobody following up, and 2 months later, somebody else coming with the same idea of the same person, and we realize nothing was done, and the competitor beat us to market, right? I spent 15 years saying that. So that's not something I wanted to see reproduced. So we also try to make those processes not cumbersome, right? Because you don't also want to make it so difficult that people don't do it. Otherwise, you also lose. Fortunately, the tools you have access to today, in our case, we use Notion, give you the ability to create one source of truth, one block, where you have access to everything and you can link any idea. So let's say we would have, I'm going to take something more or less concrete. Right now, we have that project where we try to launch a marketplace. We launched a marketplace, right? And with a marketplace comes a lot of ideas, payment, all of that. How do we manage all those topics? So we will have somebody telling us, okay, well, let's do a marketplace for traditional, clothes. Okay, so we will put, okay, that's a cool idea. We are going to add that. We are going to set priorities to that idea. Then we are going to set, okay, so that's your idea. Who is responsible? When is going to be the follow-up? And that's just 4 fields. That takes 30 seconds to enter. And then you're sure that in 2 weeks, you will have that alarm and you will be like, hey, you told me about that idea. Did you move forward? Do you have a plan? Did you create a pitch? One of the things we do, and because it's basically an Amazon succursal, our 2 main managers were Amazon people, we pitch ideas. So every time that somebody comes with an idea, we ask folks to write basically the press release for it. So we make sure that, okay, what is your market? What is your market? What you are going to sell? To whom you are going to sell? What's the value? What's your TAM? All the standard KPIs you have. Because we want to force people to when we have a meeting, again, we will have value. We will create that common language. So that's what I was talking about when I was talking about creating a sustainable process. Our goal is not only to execute, but all those folks, now we have 12 employees, I believe, 12 or 14 employees. All those folks, hopefully Yoonema will work, all those folks we are going to be senior, are going to manage themselves. So our goal is not only to tell them, do this, do that. We want to really make sure that you're going to be a manager, you're going to have to explain that to the next folk after, right? That's only how we are going to succeed, and that's how we are going to make to create the right ecosystem. We don't have all those meetups. We are going to create them. So yeah, that's the whole process.
Well, thanks a lot for sharing, Jonathan. That's very insightful. I think at this time we will stop this live stream, but everyone is welcome to stay longer for a more informal chat. Let me quickly share screen for a bit. Jonathan, if you please stop sharing, that I can do this to say a couple of closing words to our guests watching on YouTube and other live streams. So big thanks to everyone who joined us tonight. We hope you enjoyed. Please come again. You can find us on Meetup, Product Management People, or the schedule of the next event. We have many more to come. If you want to talk further, join our Telegram chat, Get Product People. We have a lot of discussion there and some interesting gigs I also shared. And if you liked us and want to support us, please find us on Patreon and support Product People. Thank you very much. Alexi, please stop the